I'm Andy Bates, part of the team here at KFUO. While you hear me on the air and in podcasts, I'm also part of the team that works behind the scenes to bring you the programs like this that you value. What you hear on the air and in podcasts is just the tip of the iceberg. Listeners like you generously support everything that makes radio and podcasts happen. Administration, cutting-edge technology, software, hosts, producers, and more. You make this happen. Can we count on you to continue this support? KFUO Share-a-thon, now through April 5th, is a great time to show your support and make a gift or make a plan to give for a whole year. Your generosity is important and appreciated, not just by the KFUO team, but by listeners who get to hear and enjoy Christ-centered programs every day. Will you make a gift today? kfuo.org/give. kfuo.org/give. You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Today we get to learn about the Concordia University system. What is the Concordia University system? Who makes the system? What is it? What are the universities that comprise the system? And we're going to learn more about the leadership as well. Thanks to Concordia University Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. You can find out more about Concordia University Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us today, the Reverend Dr. Jameson Hardy, president of the Concordia University system. Dr. Hardy, welcome back to the Coffee Hour.
It's good to be with you.
Also joining us today, the Reverend Dr. Douglas Spitell, Vice President of the Concordia University System. Dr. Spitell, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
So what is the Concordia University System? I don't know if we've really had a conversation much about what is the CUS. Dr. Hardy?
Yeah, the CUS, the Concordia University System, is the entity that governs all of the Concordia University schools throughout the United States, representing the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. Historically, the Concordia University System has had a little bit different role than we currently have today. At the 2023 convention, Synod adopted Resolution 7-04B, which changed drastically what Concordia University System does. Today, the university system is responsible for ecclesiastical visitation, ensuring our church work programs and the standards that we use for church work preparation. We do informal visitations once a year, twice in a triennium, and then in the third year we do formal visitation, which has a reporting process that goes on our cus.edu website, informing the church on the health and wellness of our universities and their work towards their Lutheran identity.
We'll talk more about those visits in the second half of our conversation, but let's talk more about what both of you get to do with Concordia University System. Dr. Spitell, I know, Vice President of Concordia University System. What does that mean that you actually get to do?
Well, it means I get to do really two things, the visitations, which we'll talk about. That's a big part of it. I spend a lot of time traveling all over the country. But the other part is working behind the scenes on a lot of protocols, communications, not only between our universities, but also out to the Synod and to the public, developing our website, our newsletter. And so the communications, the transparency that we want to develop about all of our Concordia universities and working with them and with all the people of our Synod.
What are the benefits of having a university system like this for the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod?
Yeah, and here's the central point about having a system is we have independent colleges that have independent boards of regents, that have independent presidents and operations. But the system helps collaborate with collaboration and the like across the board. We also bring ecclesiastical visitation, and there's other means by which being a part of the system is important, such as the imprimatur of the Synod, that is to say, to be called a school of the Church, of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. And I think that's a really important aspect of being a Concordia University. The other thing that is kind of unique to the system, and it's something we're working on in the new 704B era, which Douglas and I are in charge of implementing, is this whole concept of being together, working together as a system. And it's a really important aspect because I think historically, as you both know, we had 10 universities in the system. We currently have 5 with 6 campuses. And so there requires a higher level of communication and collaboration.
What does that look like for schools to be working together as independent universities, but then also working together as part of the Concordia University system?
A lot of it is learning from each other. Each school has its own culture. They're geographically distinct. Each school has different majors. They have different curriculum, and they can learn from each other. That's a nice part of the visitation process is we take people from the different schools and they visit their sister schools and they take what they've learned back home with them. So there's a lot of cross-pollination. Having a system also benefits the people of our synod and the students in our synod that they can find a best fit for them, not only geographically, but also the majors that they need, the curriculum that they're looking for. So they have a lot of choices by us having a system and not being limited to just one school.
Now, Dr. Hardy, you mentioned that we at one time had 10 Concordia universities. Now we have 5 with 6 campuses. What are the Concordia universities that make up the Concordia University system today?
Yeah, currently we have from the West Coast to the East, we have Concordia University in Irvine, California. Beautiful campus out there right by the ocean. We have Concordia University in Nebraska, in Seward, Nebraska, a small rural community in Nebraska. And then as you move northward, we have a more clustered area of Concordia University in Chicago, Illinois, Concordia University in Mequon, Wisconsin, which is a north suburb of Milwaukee, and CUW, Concordia, Wisconsin, has a campus in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And then we have Concordia University in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that Concordia campus actually has 2 satellite campuses, one in Portland, Oregon, and one in Denver, Colorado.
What's the value of having these Concordia universities in a system spread out across the country?
Well, look, when we had 10, we had one in New York, we had one down in Alabama, we had one in Portland, Oregon, one down in Austin, Texas, and going back even further, we had one in Kansas and 2 in North Carolina.
We had 2 schools in North Carolina. There was a school in Missouri. Yeah, we have had historically many schools that have opened and closed over 150 years, and some that have consolidated or moved. It's a long history, and I can give a whole paper about that. But where we sit today is where we find ourselves in the 21st century.
So you have multiple campuses across the United States, all collaborating together. And for what are the common purposes across the campuses for which they collaborate?
Well, look, our Concordia universities independently have been established to prepare church workers and citizens for service to God and the country. But with the primary goal of raising up church workers. And that would be church workers for the institutions, our church congregations, but it is also for pastors, pre-seminary, and other church service areas. Obviously, over the years, the Concordias have morphed into having other academic programs on the campuses, and we have a very wide academic berth across the entire system. Currently, one of our Concordias right now is working on adding an MD degree, a medical doctor's degree, which we do not have in the system. Previously, Concordia Portland had a law school. So, we have an engineering school at Concordia, Wisconsin. And so, the system, going back to Sarah's question, the system has benefit because in the system, you can get pretty much any academic degree that you're seeking on top of at each campus is being prepared for church work.
Let's talk a little bit more about what makes Concordia University such a unique opportunity for students who have a lot of college choices, and they could choose to go anywhere. But what sets Concordia universities apart from other university options?
Well, they're Lutheran. We come, this sounds obvious, but we come at everything. whether it's preparing for church work or preparing for other godly vocations in the world, we come at all of our education and formation from the standpoint of a Lutheran viewpoint and confessing Jesus Christ as the center of our lives and as the purpose for all these different vocations. So students are not only learning from a biblical point of view, but they're being formed and educated in their vocations toward service to God by service to their neighbor.
We have more to learn about the Concordia University system in just a moment. We're going to learn about the visitation process with Dr. Spatel in just a moment. We're going to say farewell to Dr. Hardy. Looking forward to chatting with him in the future as well, but we'll chat with Dr. Spatel more about that visitation process in just a moment. Thank you, Dr. Hardy, for being our guest today.
Thank you.
We'll learn more about Concordia University system in just a moment. You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
At Concordia University, Wisconsin, we believe you were created for a reason: to use your God-given gifts to help others, to live a life of self-sacrifice in a me-first world, to live a life that's uncommon. Whether you're taking one of 50-plus online programs or learning with us in person on the shores of Lake Michigan, you'll be equipped to make an uncommon impact. Learn more at cuw.edu. Concordia University, Wisconsin. Live uncommon.
Welcome back to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
Today we're learning about the Concordia University system. Our guest for this segment, the Reverend Dr. Douglas Spatel, Vice President for the Concordia University system. Dr. Spatel, in the first half, we learned about all the Concordias that make up the Concordia University system, and part of that system, being a part of that system, involves a visitation process. Tell us about the place of visitation in the system, and then we'll learn about what a visit looks like.
Okay, well, visitation is something that our synod requires of us, but it's really for the good of the church and the good of our universities. It's an opportunity for Concordia University system and representatives from the synod, and I'll get to that in just a second, what I mean by that, to really go and see how our schools are doing. And the bylaws are very specific. They use the word affirming, that these visits are supposed to be affirming, to go and see the good work that's being done on our schools and to affirm them and to say, how can we help you continue to do that? The visitation teams are made up a little differently. So you'll have 2 years of informal visits. And the informal visits are mostly CUS staff and board members and some district presidents and occasionally somebody from outside that group. But then you get to the third year, and those are formal visits, and those are the synod's formal visits, and the bylaws spell out exactly how we're to man that visitation team. But basically, it is members of the team are administrators, faculty, and staff from other Concordia universities, so sister institutions, along with a district president representing the church, and along with a rank and file pastor from the field and a rank and file member from the pew on this visitation team, so they can be out there and they can see what's going on in our schools and how well they're doing and the good work that's going on there, and that they can then make a report to the whole church that everybody can see. And then there's a final determination from CUS, kind of a, I don't know, I hate to call it a grade, but for lack of a better term, a grading of, okay, this visitation's done and we're really happy with what's going on.
What are some of the things that happen during a visitation? That's quite a group of people that gets to go and visit campus. What are some of the things that happen during these visits?
It is 2 days of constant meetings. It is really jam-packed because we got to get in as much as we can. We meet with, so let's say we have a 6-member team. They'll break up into sub-teams of 2 members each, and they'll hold interviews, and they'll meet with administrators. They'll meet with faculty members. They'll meet with students, church work students and non-church work students. They'll meet with the athletic department and the music department, and they're just getting the lay of the land of every possible corner of that university that they can, because we want to get as broad a picture as possible as to how's everything going? How can we help you? How can we help you do things better? And what are things that we can learn that we can take back to our other universities?
It sounds similar to an accreditation process is to ensure that you are who you say you are, that you're doing what you say you do. Is that fair to say?
Fair enough. We've heard that comparison a good bit because, of course, our universities are used to going through accreditation processes. Accreditation processes are much more involved and longer than our visitations, but there's a similarity. But the main thing for us is we are not diving down into all the specifics in curriculum and staffing, that sort of thing. We are there mainly looking at identity and mission, and that's outlined by the LIMOs, the Lutheran Identity and Mission Outcome Standards that the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod set out in the 2023 convention.
So what are some of the visits you've made so far since being assigned to this new role as vice president?
I've been with the staff on informal visits across the system, but here in 2025, we are in a formal visitation year. And Dr. Hardy and I, we are along on those visits as facilitators, as staff. We are not actually part of the visitation team, but we have been so far in January to Concordia University, Irvine. Notice we go to Southern California in January. And then we were in February at Concordia University in Nebraska. And you can today find the final report from the Irvine visit on our website at www.cus. If you just click on the menu and it opens it up, you'll see a tab for visitations. And the Concordia Irvine visitation, there's a link to their full report from the committee and the letter of determination that went along with that. You can also keep up to date. If you go to the website, you can click on the news button and subscribe to our newsletter, and you'll get news from all of our Concordia universities.
So what are some of the things happening on our Concordia campuses right now? What are some of the newsworthy events happening on our Concordias?
Well, Sarah, sign up for the newsletter. But with Concordia, Wisconsin, Ann Arbor, they just had a doctoral level program in health and healthcare sciences approved. Big story that just came out of Concordia University in Irvine is they have entered into a huge marketing partnership with, let me get this correct, it's called OC Vibe. And where you will see this most strikingly is if you watch hockey and if you watch an Anaheim Ducks game, you will see Concordia University Irvine's logo on the ice.
Actually, I wondered how that happened. Now I know.
Yes. But it's involved in a lot more than that. There's a huge development taking place in that part of Irvine, and Concordia Irvine is going to be part of it. They've also just recently expanded their campus over to the Spectrum District in Irvine with a big building there where they're going to be locating some of their schools. So big news out of Irvine. Concordia University Chicago just announced their Prepare to Serve program where they're going to be capping tuition on church work students to make it affordable for church work students to enter into their school. So on and on, you hear things like this. And I just heard the other day on the sports side that Concordia St. Paul is in the NCAA Division II tournament. So they've made it to the dance, and that's always exciting too.
Wow. And I learned something new about Concordia University St. Paul today as well. I learned that they have campuses in Portland and Colorado. I was not aware of that.
They do. The Denver one is the newest, where that was an actually acquisition of a former healthcare campus. And now it's going to become part of Concordia St. Paul's nursing program. So that they haven't missed a beat on that campus. They're still continuing the education that's going on there. It's a rebranding, changing of signage, and of course, it's taken over to us. And what that means is now you're still getting the same quality nursing program but you're now getting it with a Lutheran ethos and the Lutheran Confession of Jesus Christ added to it, because all of our students in the Concordia University at the different universities take theological courses and formation courses and biblical courses. So we'll be training nurses there from a Christian perspective.
I understand that Concordia University, Wisconsin campus has also added a mechanical engineering program. I just saw that recently.
Yep, you'll find engineering in Wisconsin and also in Irvine.
So what's coming up in the future for Concordia University Systems? It's only March, so what else is on the docket for you guys coming up in the next several months leading up to convention? What are some of the things happening for you guys?
Well, speaking of conventions, this year is in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod is district conventions year. There are 35 district conventions, and CUS will be represented at every single one of them. If it's not Dr. Hardy or myself, it'll be one of our board members or our board chairman, Reverend Mark Braden. We want to be sure that we are accessible to the people in our districts, and so you'll see us sometimes up on the dais, but at least you'll see us out on the floor, and we are always available to answer questions. So all the conventions. Also, this is a year for youth gatherings, and so Dr. Hardy and I will be at the National Youth Gathering, and we will have a large display area with all of our universities represented there in New Orleans in July. We are also going to be at the Higher Things, and we are a sponsor this year of the Higher Things youth gatherings. So we're going to be at all of those. And just in case we aren't traveling enough, then of course, come fall, we have the final 3 formal visitations at Concordia St. Paul in September, Concordia University Chicago in October, and Concordia University Wisconsin in November. And that rounds out our calendar year.
It's just a little bit of travel, a couple of places you got to go to in the rest of the year. So what are you looking forward to? I know this is a relatively new position still for you as vice president. What are some of the things you're excited about as vice president of the CUS?
Yeah, I onboarded in September, and so it's been 6 months. Hard to believe it's already been 6 months. And sometimes it has felt like drinking from a fire hose, but at the same time, it is wonderful to be able to interact with our students, faculty, and staff at the different campuses to see all the good things that are going on. And I am looking forward to just a lot more of the same, really working on collaboration, cooperation, getting communication. So collaboration, cooperation, and communication, those are the big 3. Getting the word out to the church, being available to answer questions, putting as much information as I possibly can on our website, and just being both on campus and at the district conventions with the people and hearing their ideas. There are a lot of possibilities going forward. I did a kind of a deep dive historically, and we've had a lot of schools in the past that don't exist anymore, and that some of them that closed 100 years ago. But that doesn't mean that we're just on a downward trajectory. There are a lot of opportunities moving forward. And we're in the 21st century now. We're rethinking how we do residential education so that it's affordable, not only affordable for the student, but affordable for the system. It costs a lot of money to run a campus. And so there's the concept of micro campuses, and you're seeing that with Concordia St. Paul in Denver and Portland. We'd like to open up more micro campuses and look to places like my home territory on the East Coast, and to be out there with programs, and especially with church work programs, to train up not only pastors in our pre-seminary programs, but also school teachers, directors of Christian education, deaconesses, directors of parish music, directors of family life, so on and so forth.
Again, where can we find information about Concordia University System?
www.cus.edu.
Our guest today, the Reverend Dr. Douglas Patel, Vice President, Concordia University System. Thank you for being our guest today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You've been listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit kfuo.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@kfuo.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.